All right, everyone. Welcome back in. It's the All Birdies, No Bogeys podcast right here on JomezPro. I'm your host, Nate Perkins, my co-host, Brian Earhart, and we have a very special guest joining us on the podcast today, a friend of the podcast, a pioneer in the sport of women's disc golf right now, Holyn Handley. Holyn, great to see you. I was just yesterday working with one of your super fans. I was working with the mega fan. He had the Holyn Handley hat on when I walked up, that sweet H logo that you have. And he, like many of my students, he mentioned one of your tips, the quick tips that you've been given on Instagram, and how much of an impact it had on him. And it was really cool to go. I went back to his house later and he showed me all his discs that he had bought of yours from like all your wins and all your tour series discs, and he had your shirts. And him and his wife were both
Hell
a
yeah.
big fan of women's disc golf. And so, like, I know that there's fans out there, but it's always cool to see like a super fan in person. And he just had a lot of good things to say about how easy your tips are to understand. So I don't know how often you hear that from people, but I wanted to share that with you.
I appreciate that. Yeah, and I hear it at least, a few times every tournament, but it never gets old. I love it.
Yeah, cool. Well,
Perkins, we gotta throw it right back to you. No, hang on. We're
yeah,
throwing it
yeah.
right back to you, Perks. We're talking about teaching. You just came off 7 straight lessons? I have been teaching for a long time, like 12, 13 years. I have never done anything close to that. Have you, Holly?
No, I think maybe like 3 or 4 in a day at most.
Talk us through
Yeah.
that day.
Oh man. So at first I think, I'm up here in Portland, right? I live in Sisters, so it's like 3 hours across the pass. And I'm up here and I'm house sitting. So I'm staying at a woman's house up in Southwest Portland, up in the trees. I got these two French bulldogs that I'm taking care of, and I stay in her house for free. And that makes this trip up here, feasible financially. And then I open up my Calendly and I share it with the Stumptown crew. And I'm like, hey, I'm giving private lessons. Come on out. I'm using the tech disc, working with it. And I just open up my schedule, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. start, right? With the time change, we can go till 6. And so it just filled up. It filled up. My Sunday is 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. My Saturday yesterday was also similar. It was like 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to go to an individual and say, I think I need a lunch break. I'm like, all right, I got this. I brought a snack. I had a decent lunch. 300 milligrams of caffeine, and then it's just about it's about giving every single person the same level of attention, and enthusiasm, and also the patience, right? Because if you as the coach lose the ability to like stay patient, then that's just not a good experience for them. If they see your frustration, it's not good. So uh I love coaching, and it's amazing to see my schedule fill out, and I'm like, this is so fun. And during it, I'm like, this is so fun. I taught a young kid today, and really, for the young kid, I'm like, man, stay in the intuitive. Just keep throwing, do what feels good. We don't want to look at YouTube, right? You're 13 years old, but I taught his dad at the same time too. And I'm like, look, man, I'm 33, you're 45. We got to dive in and change all this stuff. And it's just so much fun. And it wasn't until I left that I was like, whoa, 8 hours straight. Like, I think I'm kind of tired, So now I'm having some olives, some pomegranate juice, and I got some white
Oof.
wine. And I'm just kind of kicking back, and I'm excited for this podcast. And yeah, the lessons, they took it out of me, but it's all rewarding, right? It's rewarding to like kind of share my knowledge and like the concepts with people, but to enable them to like get better is always super rewarding.
I have to share a story, about a lesson that I taught. Perkins, number 1, I don't think I'll ever do 7 in a day. This is vintage Nate Perkins, though. This is like, "Oh, I'm gonna do a clinic tour around Finland with James Conrad," and then when I finished, I just did it again. I went on another clinic tour around Finland. You're an
I
absolute
gotta
psycho,
sell
Nate.
those discs. I had to sell those discs.
You're a psycho in the best way possible, and I have to share before we move on to talking with Holland. I feel like both you would appreciate this. Disc golf world doesn't discriminate. You come across so many different types of people. I think it's one of the best parts about this game and the community. I don't think this story is wrong to tell because no one knows that it happened except for me and the guy that I taught the lesson to. And if you're listening and this guy is you in the story, I think we had a great time when the lesson actually started. You're a great guy. I don't know how this transpired though. So I was doing a lot of lessons maybe 2 years ago in Charlotte, and I had a lesson booked. My brother decided to come to town and visit for a weekend. So I message this guy and I say, "Hey, I got some family in town. Is there any way we can reschedule? Because everyone that I've been doing these lessons for is from Charlotte. I maybe had one other lesson where they drove up to do it, but they told me immediately." It was very strange because first off, I get to oh no, he emails me back and says, "Oh shoot." And this is like not immediately when I send the reschedule message. This is like maybe a day later. He says, "Oh shoot. I just landed in Charlotte." I was like, "Oh no." I was like, "Okay, so he flew here. I don't know, is it just for the lesson? Is there something else he's doing?" So I said, "Hey, it's just my brother. My brother's a disc golfer too. We're just going to be finishing up around at Eastway. Meet me at the soccer field there. We'll do the lesson." Me and him finished a round, and I checked my email because that's how we've been communicating for some reason. I don't even really know why. And he emails me and says, "Hey, I'm here." And I'm like, I email him back. I still don't have his number apparently. And I said, "Hey, I don't see you." And he goes, "Oh no. I ended up at Kilbourne instead of Eastway." And Kilbourne is, I believe, 4 miles away. And I'm like, "No problem, man. I'll see you when you get here." And I waited and I waited and I waited. The sun is starting to go down. And in the distance, I look, there's a small figure running fast, really fast, bag swaying back and forth
No,
wildly, hands in the air. And I hear,
he ran.
"Brian! Brian!" off in the distance. And
No.
this guy ran. I don't know why, but he ran from Kilbourne Park. There's a lot of streetlights on the way from Kilbourne to Eastway. That's 4 miles. And he runs up, and he's in pretty good shape. And I was like, "It's all good, man. Like, sun's going down. Let's just play some disc golf and just relax. Like, thanks for coming. No charge. Like, I'm so happy to see you. I'm glad you made this work. I'm sorry that you ended up in the wrong place." As we're walking to T1, he is gasping for air. And I'm like, "Are you a marathon runner, or like, were you in the military? Like, are you a runner?" And he goes, "No, no, I'm not a runner."
That's the
He
farthest I've
ran
ever ran in
4
my life.
miles, ended up having a great time. Absolutely great time.
Wow,
Sun went down, we played a little
that's
bit
a
of
good story.
Eastway, and, if you're listening, again, you know who you are. I thought we had a great time. Let me know otherwise if we didn't, but, one of my funniest stories, and I can't fathom running 4 miles even with no disc golf bag on, so that's an incredible feat that I witnessed.
Wild.
Anyway, Holland, you're here, number 1 player on the tour right now. You just came off a win in New Orleans, crazy disc golf course that you got to play. Reflect on the week.
Oh, yeah, it was an awesome week. I mean, I hadn't been to New Orleans in about 10 years, so it was fun to be back there. The food was insane. The people just playing music on every corner was
What was the best
awesome.
food?
They had so
What
many,
was the
like,
best bite you had?
um, it's probably we went to I don't even remember the name of it. It's like Hot and Cajun, I think was the name of it. But it was like one of those places where you just get like crab and corn and potatoes in a bag with like butter and a whole bunch of seasonings and stuff. And I had probably like one of my top 5 like Vietnamese places. It was like I got a vermicelli bowl and this Thai tea from this
Mm.
place. I don't even remember what it's called, but it was insanely good. And I mean, we get vermicelli bowls all over the place, so that's like, you know, that's something I get a lot. And this one was really, really good.
Alright, I love a vermicelli
But talk
bowl.
about the rest of the week. Talk about the golf. Talk about, like, we've already had the interviews, I guess, with Perkins talking about, like, what's the chatter been about the course, but now that the dust is settled, you won, and you won by a lot.
Yep.
What do you take away now after you've finished a weekend at that course? A lot of players in the MPO side said it had a lot of potential for their layout. What do you feel like for yours, the potential is?
Yeah, I think similarly, there's a lot of potential in our layout. Obviously, ours was a more established layout, so I would say most of the layout was actually really good and doesn't really need to be tweaked. And I mean, I left like a nice like short essay for the pro tour for some suggestions I had for some of the holes, but there's maybe like 5 or 6 where we need just like another option to approach the green, where the landing zone they're asking for to access the green is just it's on, like, the limit of the top thrower's distance for, like, the technicality of the line, and so I think, that's fine, like, let's keep that, let's reward that, and then let's offer another way to get to the basket that doesn't require that same distance, but maybe is challenging, in a different way, and I think most of those holes, like, that lane exists, it's just, like, 2 trees that need to go.
Mhm. Well, I ask because I had a great conversation with you the other day. We played a practice round, and I know you've been designing a course, kind of your own private course for yourself, and you're kind of watching FPO course design continue to evolve. Gets too hard, gets too easy, it's trying to find that happy medium week to week.
Mhm.
Um, from your perspective as kind of a course design nerd from after what I've gathered from you, where is FPO course design right now? Can you even sum it up as a whole?
Yeah, I think on the whole and on average, it's been getting better every year. I think if you look 5, 6 years ago, a lot of times it was they just kinda threw us on the MPO layout, maybe gave us a short tee here and there, but it felt like not a whole lot of thought went into, like, actually curating the appropriate layout. It's like if they had short tees, they might just give us short tees. And the challenge has been making it the distances appropriate while also making the lines and the technicality sufficiently challenging to keep like forcing players to keep pushing their game forward. And I felt like going into Supreme Flight, like I love Olympus. I think it's one of the best courses we play in terms of the design and just like the quality of the construction, everything. However, all of the changes they made actually made it shorter, and I thought removed some of the challenge. And I don't think it needs to be a super super long course. But you look at the 5 or 6 holes that they changed; they made them all considerably shorter and a lot simpler. And my kind of main critique was you really only needed about, like, 3 shots, to break that course apart. You needed, like, a straight shot, a forehand hyzer, and a backhand hyzer. The times where you did the longer holes were all downhill, so it's not there's no distance challenge, really, it's all angles, which I think is great. I don't think every course needs to be super long, but I just kinda noticed that, and I've noticed the general trend over the years has been to just try to make courses shorter. And I think there's been a lot of loud voices in that camp. And I guess my opinion would be like, yeah, let's keep the distances appropriate, but let's make sure we're still keeping holes that like you can it's just on the edge of what the top players are capable of to kind of force us to keep pushing and keep finding ways to separate and to win. And that was something I really liked about PDF was yeah, some of the lines were maybe they need some refinement for sure, but I liked that it forced me to throw so many types of shots that I just don't really have to throw that often. Like I for long shots, I'm able to just like take a vulture, smash it flat, let it glide. I'm never having to like late flip something. I took like understable mid ranges out of my bag because like I never need that slot. I can just punch a forehand hyzer out there. And I mean I'm happy to play really simple golf and score well, but I want, course designers to keep that in mind of like, let's keep like making these lines really, really technical and like force players if you want to separate yourself like to push their game and to kind of get out of their comfort zone a little bit.
Well, Holland, you bring up an interesting note about kind of asking challenging the FPO in a way that you want them to improve their overall capabilities, right? And I want to ask you like how much do you think about and how important it is do you feel is the entertainment quality of how a course looks and plays versus the ability of the course or the capacity of the course to further the abilities of the FPO um, skill. Is that did I phrase that question correctly?
You're kind of asking like, what's the balance between like providing a challenge that like makes us, get better if we want to get it, but isn't so far unattainable that people just play really boring par golf. which it was kind of the problem back when we're just thrown onto the MPO layout, right? Is you put this par 3 that's 450 feet. No one can actually get there, so everyone just kinda, goes 350 and then 100 or whatever. Um, and yeah, there is like that balance for sure because you don't want to see players playing par golf. But I think if you're looking at we have a ton of data on this. Like we're looking at like what are the top 10 throwers able to do. Let's make sure that courses have like, opportunities for those players to do those kinda lines, like, you think about the kinda stuff that Evelina and Henna can do, and if we're always just playing relatively short courses or less technical courses, you don't get to, like, fully appreciate how insanely good they are at manipulating a disc out to, like, 380, right? And I think that has a ton of entertainment value. Right, 'cause I think on the flip side of it, you make courses too soft and everyone's just throwing straight shots and dummy hyzers, like, that's kinda boring as well to watch, so I think, like, not all courses need to swing one way or the other, like, obviously, a good course is gonna have a mix of really challenging holes versus really easy holes, and then holes where it can kinda go either way. I feel I feel like lately we've been really starting to trend more towards the more easy holes, and I think that's because there's kind of the question of should FPO be scoring as low as MPO score and stuff like that, which, I mean, we can get into that question as well of, like, what's an ideal hot round, um, but, yeah, I think we also looking at MPO, you can kinda almost view them as a field as just being maybe, like, 5 at 10 years or there's some amount of time, skill-wise, like, ahead of us because there's just more of them and they've been, a bigger field for longer, and so you can kinda look at how they've progressed their game and kinda see, like, FPO is gonna do something similar, and obviously, we're not gonna throw it as far as the men are throwing it, but in terms of the technicality, like our technique and our form and like that stuff's already getting better. If you look at some of the newer players on tour or even some of the players who are riding the cash line now, like they're doing so with excellent form. So you know that in a few years, like everyone's going to be shot shaping at a much higher level. And then in a few years, you're going to run into the same problem I think that we've had in MPO, which is these courses are too easy for them. So I think my thought would be let's make courses that are gonna be challenging for the top players with the constraint that the lower level players need to be able to play on them and complete them as well, but bear in mind that the field has been getting better pretty rapidly, and they're gonna continue to do so, and if we want these courses to have, staying power on tour, they need to have space for us to, like, continue to be challenged.
So, I wanna ask, you've designed courses, you've done some course design with Missy, you got consulted to work on a major course or at least give some insight on a major design. Um, right now, I look at the top 5, well, at least the top 5 currently playing in my mind, I'm not going off world rankings or anything like that. I'm thinking about players like you, Own, Missy, Evelina, who
Silva.
yeah, sorry, and Silva Sarnan. Silva is actually there to make my point. It is 5 very different skill sets,
Mhm.
which is really cool. If you're designing a course for these 5 players to challenge them, what do they all have in common? And obviously include yourself in this, but what is challenging universally to all 5?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think so in that list of 5, like, I would say your kinda distance throwers are gonna be, like, me and Evelina, and then you've got, Owen, who's maybe doesn't has probably the least distance of everybody, and she's got a very unique style where she's, forehand, backhand, but she's very much an overstable flex kinda player, and then you've got, like, Missy and Silva, who they differ a little bit, but they're more of that, like, flipping that understable, flipping up a disc, although you will see Missy go overstable, she's just kind of very much a backhand specialist. So I think, like, the kind of course that's gonna be really challenging to all of us, because I think we all have very different strengths is, something that's got some elevation, that's got some shot shaping at various distances, and that's, like, making you, hit a gap, but not necessarily just you can hit this gap any which way. It's like you need to hit the gap and get the disc to do something, kind of combining elements, and then you're kind of having a mix of distances and a mix of different types of shots.
Last question before I pass to Perks. I wanna ask about greens and putting, and there's always been this chatter recently of removing circle 1 and having circle 2 be the edge of the circle, and when I look at the putting statistics, it feels like FPO is fine right now, with Circle 1 and Circle 2. I don't feel like, and this is just looking at the numbers. Do you feel like that would be appropriate for the division right now to remove Circle 1?
I don't think so, because I think, like, the discussion of removing circle 1 is because you've got guys like Gannon who can putt standing still from 100 feet, all right? And the MPO, and maybe not everybody's 100 feet, but they're all able to stand still putt from about 60 feet, and I think a lot of that has to do with just being larger people, larger hands, longer levers, they're able to just generate more speed. You don't see that on the FPO side. I would say most FPO, with a few exceptions, probably start jumping around 40 feet, if not even a little bit shorter than that. And so I think to move the circle all the way out to 66 feet doesn't make any sense for us. Um, I kind of think my solution anyway is we don't need two circles. We don't need a circle 1 and circle 2, because the only rule is about circle 1. Circle 2 is just kind of there for stats. Is because they don't want to have like multiple circles for the MPO and FPO because that's too many circles. But what if we just got rid of circle 2, and then kind of like how in basketball they have different 3-point lines?
Mhm.
If we just had an FPO circle, we had an MPO circle.
What would the MPO circle be at from your perspective if you had to make the decision?
I don't know, cause maybe, like, 45 or 50?
45 and 50, and then would you keep C1 the same for FPO?
I think you could maybe move it out a little bit, but I would keep it pretty close to the same.
There you go, PDGA. Right in the suggestion box for you. Perkins, what are your thoughts? You've been a little quiet.
No, I love that. And Holland, were they asking you that question at in New Orleans? The PDJ was there and they were kind of taking the questionnaire for MPO. I can't recall if they were also doing it for FPO.
So they were doing a questionnaire. I don't think I actually got to respond to it because I got pulled away for a million things after that round finished. I don't remember if it was final round or if it was, because it was final round. I definitely got pulled away before I had a chance because we had the
You got the
whole
marching
parade up
band.
to the stage, and then yeah,
Yeah.
well, and then I had to run over to the clubhouse to get on the Wi-Fi so I could submit my
Uh-huh.
scorecard because I couldn't get signal anywhere. And then after that, it's like now there's other people there doing media stuff. It's not just DGN anymore. And then it's like now there's a line of people doing autographs. So it was there. I did not participate because I had a million other things happening.
I like where you're at 45, 50 feet for circle for where you can step through. I think sometimes it looks a little funny when you watch someone from 33 feet like step into the basket. It just visually, if you had never watched disc golf before and you saw one person putt from behind the lie and the next person just kind of step forward, you would kind of wonder like, what's the rule? What's going on here? So if we didn't have that, step through from so close, I think it could look better visually. Um, but you know what? I really want to jump into Hornet's Nest. I heard you guys got a practice round in yesterday, and I just kind of want to hear what's your history like with Hornet's Nest, Holland? Like what tournaments have you played here? You played two Pro Tour championships here. What's your history like with this course?
Yeah, so actually uh the last year they had the Pro Tour championships here was the year before I was on tour full time.
Mm.
So I never actually got to play it until match play last November. So it's a very short history.
But in your short history at the match play, Holland, what kind of memories do you have out at that course? Or you have fond memories of how it treated you?
I mean, won the match play, so that's pretty fond memories. Yeah, it's a fun track. I feel like it's probably it is one of the shorter courses we play on tour, but it has some really fun lines. Um, yeah, and I mean, I remember, like, it felt like kind of a milestone for me to beat Missy in the final because she almost across the board beats me in the woods, and usually when I beat her, it's more out in the open, so to even though not singles format, but, that felt like that was a nice little confidence booster, to beat Missy out there, but especially because she's won a couple championships out here.
Let me tell you guys my fond memories of this course in regards to Holland at the match play. A short window of memory. Does anyone not just, like, remember her shredding this course to death? She was, like, what, 10 down through how many holes? 14?
Yeah, 10 down through 14, and they barely showed any of it. I'm only a little salty.
Well, that's see, okay, I was talking with Holland about this. It's so funny in match play, she could be absolutely murdering her round, But if it's a bloodbath and the match is over, I mean, Coda was playing pretty well during that match,
Mhm.
still getting crushed, unfortunately. She would have won almost any other match. But they always want to show the good battles because that's the value of match play. That's kind of like a decision in the moment, like, okay, Holland is just murdering this course, but do we send a camera out to her or do we, keep it on the one that's tied through 9 holes or something like that? So sorry. I didn't make the decision. That's not me, but uh you clearly play very well here. Unlike PDF, this is a course that asks a pretty specific thing
Mhm.
on every hole.
Mhm.
It's not going to give you a lot of options. There's a couple holes where I feel like there's a balance, forehand line, balance, backhand line, but not too many. What are you gathering this week from the current FPO layout? I know we had a little conversation about it
Mhm.
yesterday.
Yeah, I think there's a couple holes that need to be maybe beefed up a little bit. There's a multiple sub 500-foot par fours, where I think, the challenge is really one gap, and I feel like enough and it'll be good to get some more recent data. Like, it's been several years since the tour's been here, so I'm sure if we come back next year, they're gonna make this layout a little bit harder because there's a couple spots where I'm like, "Okay, if we want this to be a true par 4, we need to go from the long or we need a different pin or something because it's kinda like you beat this one tree, everyone's gonna be, chipping up from 100 feet." And I think an ideal par 4, you want to be challenging the players on both shots to an extent. You don't want it to be you did all of the work and you get just like a little frisbee toss, nothing shot to the green. So I think there's a couple spots that are gonna need to be beefed up. Um, I think we're calling it hole 13 because we're not starting on hole
That's
1.
tripping me up
Yeah, we actually
big
start
time.
on hole 5, and so it's what's normally hole 17. We're going from, like,
Mhm.
the middle, I guess the blue tee, not the longest tee, but the next longest tee, and it's, like, 570 feet, and it's, like, you could go putter and get a putt for a 3, and we're calling it a par 5. So that's a little strange to me, but I think that's one where we could play that as a great par 4, or we could even go from the longer tee and make it a true par 5. So
Mhm.
I think there's, yeah, like, I think you can kinda tell that the last time they did a layout for us here was back in, 2021 or whenever Missy won, and I remember watching those rounds actually to prepare for the match play, and, the way that, commentators are talking about the capabilities of FPO forehands and, like, can they get to this landing zone or this landing zone, and it's just man, the game has come so far since then because it was I think Haley King was on that card, and
Mhm.
they were like, "Oh, like, nobody really gets a forehand here. Haley's literally the only one," which at the time was true. There's a lot of holes where they're like, "No one's getting here with a forehand," and now there's probably half a dozen people who could get there with a forehand, just as one example. So, I think it's one that we're gonna see some low scores for sure, and it's one that they'll probably have to beef up, if we wanna continue coming back here.
You were talking about when you come to a Disc Golf Pro Tour event, you were talking to me about your strategy, thinking about scoring, and I asked you, when you come to a certain course, do you feel like you have to birdie every hole?
Mhm.
Is there a feeling that you have to press constantly? And you said, "Absolutely not." You said you don't feel that way. So, do you feel like it's just an individual gauge on each course that you'll just know what the hot score is gonna be? Or do you feel like with your skill set, if you're playing well, doing X is gonna be enough to win?
Yeah, I'm actually quite terrible at predicting what the hot score is gonna be, although I was pretty close at PDF. I think I said 8 down was gonna win, and I won with 9 down, so I was actually pretty close there.
Wow.
Um, but yeah, I'm usually pretty terrible at it because I'll either way overshoot or undershoot. I think for a course like Hornets Nest, like somebody's gonna shred just with how good everybody is. Having Silva, Evelina, Missy, Ellen, myself, like there's so many players who could absolutely just shred this course. Um, so there's kind of a couple reasons I feel that way is one, I know if I miss some of the easier holes, usually a lot of the harder holes, I know that only a handful of people are gonna birdie those,
Mhm.
even on the whole weekend, and I'm probably like, I have a good chance of being one of them. I do this all the time where I'll miss the easy hole and get the hard hole. I've kinda, like, made a career off of it so far. So maybe I need to get better at the easy holes. And then the other side of that is if there's a hole that's so hard that I'm just not able to get it, I know that probably no one else is gonna get it either. Like, maybe Evelina will get a look on it, or maybe Missy. But if it's like a distance thing, there's only a few people who I think have my, like, distance accuracy. And if it's a shot shaping thing, like a gap hitting thing, like, yeah, there's maybe a couple of people who are a little bit better at the technical side who might get it, but I know I'm losing strokes to like maybe one or two people if a hole's too hard for me.
Mhm. Holland, we're talking about shot shaping, we're talking about throwing. You just mentioned to me yesterday that you kinda stopped practice putting, and I want you to elaborate. I know you haven't completely stopped practice putting, but the grinding is no longer. So can you kind of just explain?
Yeah, so for the it kinda started in the off season. The fast several off seasons, I bring the basket indoors and I'm standing from 33 feet and I'm just, like, grinding putts every day. Like, I'm getting at least an hour plus of putts in every single day. I'm doing it outside in the evening when the winds, died down a little bit more in Oklahoma. And I always just as a general rule, I always spend the first part of my off season kind of experimenting a little bit. I do this with throwing too, just, like, I'll kinda, piddle around the internet and see, like, what are the newer ideas on throwing, like, the folks who spend way more time thinking about mechanics than I do, like, what are they kind of proposing as some new ideas, and, like, can I use any of that? And I'd say 9 times out of 10, I end up not using any of it, but every now and again, I'll get just, like, a little nugget that really just helps me take that next step forward, and I always am kinda looking for that with my putt because I feel like I don't putt very far, like, my distance putting's not been that great, um and so, usually in the process of trying to, like, increase my distance or, like, learn my mechanics better, I end up getting a little bit stiff and a little bit mechanically focused, and I kinda lose that fluidity, and it's happened where I've gone into the season then, like, kinda shorting putts and, trying to troubleshoot that, I'll kinda start pulling putts, and then I'm kind of questioning my putt a little bit, and, like, the mental side of putting kinda goes a little bit, and so I actually took a page out of Missy's book because I know when she's in the off season, she'll go in the backyard, she'll toss a few putts, she'll be like, "Yeah, looks good," and then she'll go inside, and then she starts the season, and she just, like she doesn't practice putt all that much, she just goes out and she does a few, says, "Yeah, stroke looks good," and then she goes and, chills with the dogs or with Tom or whatever. And then she always looks extremely confident when she's putting, and so I was like, "You know what? I'll try something new. I'll keep the practice putting to a minimum," and I did the same thing, like, I would kinda work it in with my shots practice, I'd throw however many shots, and then at the very end, I'd like, "Alright, I'll putt for, like, 10, 15 minutes. Stroke looks good, I'm making them. It ain't broke, I'm not gonna fix it." And that's just all I did in the off season, then I've like, during PDF, I didn't practice putt a single day getting ready for, the Big Easy Open because there just wasn't space, and then I was 92% Circle 1X or something like
Wow.
that, which is, like, one of my best tournaments ever. I think it's just, like, yeah, I never, like, try to fix it or tweak it or make it better. It's like, if it's working, let's just leave it there, and then I think the other part of that has just been, like, caring a little bit more about how I attempt the putt than the actual result of the putt. Literally telling myself, like, I would rather sail this over the basket 50 feet long into the water than short it. Like, I would rather just miss this in a huge way. I'd rather smack it off the band than to hit the basket. And, like, giving myself that permission to miss as long as it's confident and fearless and everything, that, like, literally just makes my whole body just loosen up and relax. And then that has been letting me actually make putts. So, yeah,
That makes sense.
don't over practice, I
Don't
guess.
overpractice. I resonate with that. I always got in the habit whenever I got bored, whether it's throwing or putting, of course you're gonna mess with something. Of course you're gonna watch a YouTube video and
Mhm.
you're gonna wanna try something, or you're gonna wanna mess around with the tech disc, which I think is good, but when you're the best player on the tour, how much more do you feel like you need to optimize technique-wise?
Yeah, that is, like, the balance, right? Because obviously, if I look at any part of my game, I could find things that could be better, right? Like, I could definitely, almost certainly add a little more speed or add a little bit more spin, and anytime I start kinda messing with a new mechanic, I have to weigh, like, how much do I actually think I'm gonna get out of this? Do I need that? And, like, what's the time cost of that? And is that gonna throw off other parts of my game that I then have to relearn? Like, to give you an example on the throwing side of things, I was kinda messing with that idea of, like, popping the disc in, like,
Mhm.
popping your wrist in and then out, to get a little bit more spin, and I started messing with it with the tech disc, and, I spent, like, the last 2 years getting my nose angle, like, right where it's good, and I saw, like, okay, I was getting, 50 to 100 RPM more using it just preliminary testing with this new technique, but suddenly my nose angle was all over the place. And so I kind of have to think like, okay, what does that extra, let's be generous, 100 RPM actually get me? the disc maybe holds its line a
Yeah.
little longer at the end of the flight, but then if we look at stats, if we look at, like, long hole accuracy, I'm already the best at that in the field, so do I really need that extra spin? Meanwhile, it's gonna throw off my nose angle for a bit, I'm gonna have to relearn nose angle, and I've spent all this time on this thing that only has, like, a little maybe benefit, and then that's time I didn't spend on other stuff that, like, objectively is gonna have a bigger impact, like, say, understanding where my release point is and, learning how to hit gaps a little bit better. So, yeah, that is a question that comes up all the time.
Last technique question, before I let Perkins take it, and we have to navigate the latency.
Hmm.
You were one of the brave souls that participated in the Christmas special, and it was a glorious episode. You and Gannon both talked about your, techniques over the years. We analyzed some video. Again, yesterday during our practice round, you told me that something Gannon said during that video about gap hitting
Mhm.
changed the way you thought about gap hitting, and I'm so fascinated by that. Like, what did you pick up from what he said?
Yeah, it's like what I was saying, like, every now and again, you like, 9 times out of 10, the little things I pick up here and there don't pan out, but every now and again, you get just a little nugget that you're just like, "Oh, that's freaking genius." He was talking about, like, lining up a shot and imagining the disc coming out from his left side because that's where the release point is. I remember thinking like, "Well, duh, why did I never think of that?" And, like, you all, like, knew exactly what he was talking about, and I was like, was everyone just in on this and no one told me?" But, yeah, you think about it, like, I would always just kinda look at the gap, and I would kind of imagine it coming from the center of my body, because I would just stand on the line that I want, and then I would go. But, obviously, the disc isn't coming out here, the disc is coming out, like, over here at, like, 11 o'clock, and so I started thinking instead of the lines here, I started thinking of the lines, like, over here. I'm sorry, audio listeners, this is terrible. But I'm gesturing away from my body and then just showing a line off to the left side, but imagining that the line's coming from behind me to the left, out in front of me to the left, and I need to be kind of, like, putting my palm out where that release point's gonna be and then visualizing it from there, and, like, I mean, I probably spent most of January kind of figuring out, like, where is that, and then getting it to feel very intuitive, and I mean, it was just game changer. It's like, how did I make it this far and not knowing this information?
So, was beforehand was forehand your, gap hitting crutch in your play style? And if so, have you been incorporating more backhand shots through gaps that maybe you weren't comfortable with?
Yeah, and I mean, I kinda did the same thing when I went, with on the forehand side was like, well,
Mm.
the principle probably applies here too, and I tweaked even a little bit how I'm lining up my forehands. But yeah, I would kinda just face the gap, and I know, like, I was kind of doing this forehand already and just didn't even occur to me to try it on the backhand side of thinking of the line coming from my right, and I'm trying to keep my elbow on that line and snap it forward.
Mm.
But yeah, it definitely was. Like if we look at the gauntlet hole at Hornets Nest when I played in the match play, I threw forehand off of that tee every single time. And then when I was playing with you yesterday, I was like, I'm gonna try the backhand, and I just ripped it up there, and it was like perfect.
Money.
And it was like, yeah, I'm almost feeling more confident on the backhand side right now. So yeah, it's interesting.
What do you think, Nate? The Christmas special paid off. All those hours. What is it? 9 hours of Christmas special. We did it. Someone learned something. A positive thing happened. We've done it, Nate. How do you feel?
I feel great. I mean, this is all gold. This is gold, and especially because I've been in this like headspace of like, coaching, and I'm like, okay, you're throwing these concepts at everybody, right? Being able to explain the concepts is one thing, but Holland just mentioned, and she's like diving deep down, and this is why Holland's the best, guys, is because like the closer, and Gannon as well, the more you're zoomed into the details of it all, when you're not playing, obviously, you're not gonna be in the details when you're competing, but your ability to zoom into the details like that and it be a great place for you to unpack and talk about, like, that's just really special. There's something that you, Holland, and Gannon both have is just like this ability to unpack it all, articulate it in an amazing way. But what you mentioned about intuiting the information is what I'm trying to learn how to enable each student to do. Is like, yeah, the concept I can throw at you, of like the alignment thing you mentioned from Gannon, or how the discs actually come out at 11, and you don't over rotate the shoulders and come out actually at noon, but getting getting them to enabling them to be able to self reflect and to kind of feel what it feels like is the trickiest part, right? Is intuiting one of the concepts, and you are doing that at a really high level to be able to take something Gannon said in the offseason and integrate it and use it in the very next season. That rapid integration is why, like, you're leading the pack. So this is I'm just kicking back and, you know absorbing this all, because this is great. And I want to ask you, how does it feel to have the remainder of the Europeans, joining you guys back in the FPO?
I can't wait. I think it just makes FPO more exciting to watch, more exciting it is to watch, more people watch it, and I think, that right there, it benefits all of us. And yeah, it's just there's just more people on any given weekend that could play well and be fun to compete against. Also, both Evelina, Henna, Silva, there's parts of their game that I just, as a enjoyer of disc golf, love to watch. Love to watch the way Evelina and Henna throw. Love to watch the way Silva putts. I mean, she's just gotta be, like, top 3 most fearless putters, and she's got that nice little, like, Isaac Robinson kind of flip the hand open, um, kinda style that's really, really cool. So, yeah, I'm excited. I think it's great for the division, and it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Well, Holland, I got nothing for you. We're gonna let you go. But before we let you go, because we got some stuff to do as well. We got board games to play. But Nate, we got to make some picks. We have another show happening. So we're recording a second show. You're gonna see it right before the DGN broadcast. That's gonna be our Hornets Nest preview for both divisions, comprehensive. Nate, pick a top three. I'm not even gonna let you look at previous stats. Pick a top three right now.
I'm watching. I'll remember.
For FPO?
Eagles not gonna be there.
I'm going MPO
Uh,
as well?
we'll let you go FPO, and MPO. Yep,
Okay, off the dome. Okay, we'll
right
start
now.
with FPO. I mean, I would love to see Evelina and, Silva, come over here, first tournament and play well, but I'm not gonna give that to them right away, and so they're not gonna make my top 3. And, what Holland and Missy and Own just did it. Own did it twice. Did you see that Own stayed in New Orleans and she played the pot of gold? They had an A tier, if
Pot of
you
gold.
guys didn't know. She played the pot of gold. Well, I think that was Louisiana's first A tier event, and they had it at Parc des Familles again. And so I think the FPO for that just played their same layout. I don't think they switched. The MPO played one FPO and then an MPO layout. Anyway, Own just played there again. Um, I have to just go Holland, Own, Missy.
Ooh,
Missy
nice,
Missy went
nice
back to
list.
back there, and, when I think of Own, I honestly, even Own will be the first to say, when the gaps get really thin, because she goes so exaggerated on the Annie and the Annie both ways, really the flex, sometimes the tighter lines can give her a little bit of trouble, even though we kind of think of Own as the tactician. So I think there's enough space for Own to shape, but if she can't, the putting will get it done. And if Holland's straight putter shots, if your straight putter shots are on, if you're hitting those like 6 thin gaps that you really need to hit, clean out of the hand, I mean, you're my clear number one favorite. Not saying that just because you're on the pod. I don't know if you heard, but I said it's going to be a season of dominance in the FPO, and I said you're going to lead that charge and that you're going to have your best season. So I'm sticking to that pick. And MPO. Okay, Isaac Robinson, first person to come to
Ooh,
mind. He was
Mm.
absolutely
ooh,
blowing my
good
mind.
pick.
He was blowing my mind in New Orleans. Um, I don't know how far back of Rick and Gannon the playoff he finished, but it probably wasn't a lot. And it was really some just kind of miscues on the putting green. But his uh, tee his fairway percentages, were incredible. Tee to green, he was incredible, and the lines he was hitting, he's just so comfortable when the gaps get thin. And Holland was saying FPO, it's like you're shaping on a 500 foot par four. You just have to get the gap and you're done. Well, the MPO pads at Hornets Nest, it's asking for you to kind of control the shape out to a certain range before it's done. It's not just that first gap. Isaac does that incredibly well. Isaac Robinson, is Paul Macbeth back, Brian?
I believe
Have you
he
got an
is.
update from
I
him?
bel it sounds like everything is A-okay. Yeah, sounds like he's driving to the Queen City Classic. Let me just, because there remember that one time Ricky dropped out, like, last minute, and he told his fans on an Instagram Live that he wasn't gonna be at
Yep,
Austin, and I
yep.
picked him to win, and I got absolutely dragged through the mud. So, I've learned my lesson, and, I just wanna double check because that was horrible, and then Ricky's going on Twitter, he's like, "Hey, leave Brian alone, guys." Oh, it's so bad. Alright, so let's take a look here. Paul Macbeth is signed up. So Gannon, Calvin, Ricky, Paul, Isaac. Yeah. All right. So um, go ahead. Yeah, Paul Macbeth is playing.
I got I got yep. So, I'm gonna actually go Luke Taylor, Gannon Burr, Isaac Robinson,
Ooh.
and it's funny because
Ooh.
we just saw them on the lead card, so it's like,
Wow.
yeah, we just saw them all play, but I'm huge on Luke Taylor, and I think his time is coming really soon. And how could that the run? I think the run that Luke Taylor had in round two at PDF was the only reason that we're not still talking about that run that he had. I think he went 8 under in 8 holes
Mhm.
on the
That
hardest
was
Wow.
nuts.
course all time with an ace. Okay, with an ace
Wild.
in that stretch. And we were talking going into the week. We were talking about a course where a 3 to 5 was gonna be hot, and he, at one point, was 8 for 8. So he went on one of the best runs that I've ever seen at a course. The only reason that it was not talked about more is because Ricky, that same day, shot a 10 under par with a run that was comparable with an eagle on 12 and a birdie on 13 and a birdie on 14. So that was it just got overshadowed, and that happens sometimes in our sport. But his run was historic, and I think the moment just got a little big for him that final day. I think that he is still I'll reference Holland here. Holland a couple years ago, remember those moments were getting big for you, those final on Sundays. They were getting big and the emotions were there. They were there and the emotions had a little more control and you leave your body, right? Whatever that feeling felt like, you left your body and you weren't in full control. This is speculation, but I sensed that from Luke Taylor final day. I felt like the moment was a little big and he wasn't in the same space of focus that he had found in day 2. So I think with that failure that he's had a couple times on the lead card, like I think he's kind of ready. I think he's going to be a regular champion on the tour. I think he could come at Hornets Nest. And then how could you not count Gannon Burr? Um, he's the clear favorite. It doesn't matter how tight. It doesn't matter how difficult. I think he's the favorite on a course that's birdieable and a course that's impossible. So those are my 3, Brian. You got some picks for me?
Oh yeah. And I want Holland's picks as well for MPO.
Mm.
So let's see. Last week felt so scripted to me, or last tournament felt so scripted to me. All of it that played out was just bizarre. It was one thing after the next. And after Gannon hit that putt on 17 from like 90 feet, I started to feel like we were in a simulation. Like, of course, this is going to happen after all this stuff. I think if the script continues, Ricky gets first place. Ricky gets first place. Gannon gets second place. And I think this is just going off a vibe for this third place. Kyle Klein threw one of the nastiest shots I've ever seen at Hornets Nest. It was 14 long. I don't know what tournament course it's gonna or hole it's gonna be this time. middle of the course. It's like a 400-foot late flip turnover to the right, and he threw an origin, I believe, and it was one of the grossest shots I've ever seen. He was doing great at the Tour Championship. I think Kyle Klein's about to pop off. He was one of the best players on tour last year and had a really sneaky season. I don't think he won anything, but he was like the best player that didn't have a win last year. I want to make sure I didn't lose my mind. Yes, I'm correct on that. He got second 1, 2, 3 times last year. He got second at Open at Austin. He got second at Northwest Disc Golf Championship, second at Deglow or at Ledgestone. Sorry, even bigger tournament. So second place in 3 Elite Series Plus events. So I think Kyle Klein's about to pop off here at Hornets Nest. But yeah, the script continues. Like something else is going to happen. We saw the video that Ricky posted, uh, looking at the pile of sticks, trashing on the people that were hating on him. I think it's going to be a great weekend. And for FPO, I don't know. Watching Holyn in the practice round, I give her 5 out of 10, 4 out of 10, 3 out of 10. I don't think she's going to win. I'm kidding. Holyn threw. Actually, I came home and told Lindsay, I was like, she's so good. She's playing so good. If you need to bleep that out, that's fine. I don't know what kind of family friendliness we need to have here, but Holyn threw exactly the shot you needed to throw. And as a lover of disc golf and a lover of watching the disc fly, there were a couple times where I'm like, are you really not going to throw the eagle shot here? You please just throw it. I want to see you throw the turnover, please. I had a great time watching her throw. I think the power gets used to the advantage out here, just like Chosek did at Supreme Flight. Back off to a buzz, back off to a putter. You don't have to overshape the disc, and you can keep these stubborn mid-ranges on a line and hit these gaps with a lot more consistency. So people who have to overshape, I think, are going to struggle on some of the harder holes. Like Holyn said, though, it is a shorter layout for the FPO. I feel like next year, if possible, if we come back to Hornets Nest, I would love to see some custom tee pads start to get designed because some of those middle tees are not quite it. They're kind of tweeners and like what is it? Golly, I'm gonna have to actually relearn the tournament holes. Course hole 17, the par 5, I think it's great for both divisions. It's an eagleable par 5 for the men. We saw Ezra get it all those years ago with an insane, like 500-foot low ceiling line with a nuke. I think it's a perfect par 5 for the FPO. You can go almost mid-range to get to the elbow, and you can throw for a great 3 up to the green, get your 4. I think it's a cool shape. So I don't think you're gonna have to have a lot of distance. So I will say Holyn wins the tournament, but I do think the Europeans are gonna come out. I think Silva is gonna get second place. I think it's gonna be a great battle. She's been lifting and training all offseason. We saw Evelina in the mix, putting. She's been training. She's been cross-training like she always does. I don't know if Evelina's gonna have the start. I think Missy is gonna be in the mix. She plays great at Hornets Nest, so it's gonna go Holyn, Silva, Missy are my 3. And then, yeah, is that it? Did I do both divisions? I can't even remember what I said anymore.
Yeah, you did. You got both
Okay,
divisions, Brian. Great job.
great.
You nailed it.
MPO picks for you.
Okay. Do I have to pick like completely different from you guys,
Yeah.
or it's okay?
Do you watch
It's just
MPO?
like
Do
all
you
right.
watch MPO much, Holyn? Do
Yeah,
you watch
yeah, I do. I
DGN
mean,
or
I don't always. Yeah, I usually watch it live. I don't usually get to watch the whole round. Kind of depends on what tea time I'm on. Like the by the time I finished everything the last day at Big Easy, I think by the time I finished all the stuff I had to do and got lunch, they were on hole 15 by the time I got home. So I only really watched the end. But usually I get to watch at least like the back 9 or so. Thank you for pulling up the this thing for me. Yeah, I feel like this feels like an Isaac Robinson course to me.
Mm.
Um,
Mhm.
just yeah, he's just like he's such like for them, I feel like the putter shots. He's so good at shaping stuff. He's so good at late flipping stuff. Um, obviously, like Gannon, you to not put Gannon in your top 3 feels silly. And then I want to put Paul up there too because he was playing so well at Supreme Flight. But then I also want to put Ricky up there because I feel like one, he's been on one, and then I feel like he's gonna be hungry
Mhm.
after what just happened with him and Gannon. So I think my picks are gonna be Ricky, Isaac, Gannon.
What
I
1, 2,
love that
3?
you guys
1,
both
2,
put
3.
Ricky in
Bang.
there. Love that you both put
The
Ricky
script
in
goes
there.
on. It has to happen.
No, it's
It
great,
has
and
to
I
happen.
want that. I want that. I think he's been through a lot, and we everyone has harped on this, right? And I love where Rick's at, like making the satire. Like he knows where he's at, and we spoke on this. You know what? You know what I want to talk about real quick. I want to talk about something with you guys. Okay, I want to talk about something with you guys, and I'm talking about my fans here, everyone at home. Okay, this is a note and a piece of advice. Okay. This is a note. All right. When someone has a fallacy in an argument, like I did last week, what did I say? You guys know it. I said, you don't become a champion. You don't become a champion if you don't have integrity. What did I say? All champions of sports have integrity. Okay, that's a fallacy. There's a fallacy in that argument. There's a hole in that argument, right? Because as you mentioned, Lance Armstrong, whoever, all these scandals in sports.
Barry
So that
Bonds.
so
Mhm.
that that means that I'm the dumbest person that has ever lived because this argument that I'm presenting has a hole in it. Now the deal is that you
That's what I
you
say.
12 people or whatever, okay, we are all in this disc golf sphere together, right? The second that you want to attack me or anybody on these podcasts or as a public figure, right? Like you are pointing the finger, hey, you're an idiot for that argument. Like we we are individuals. We're people. And like yeah, I made an argument that wasn't perfect, but, like, it I think is so sad where some people get where they're like, "You're such an idiot for putting that out there in public, and you're such a cheater, Rick, for making this mistake." We need to take it easier on each other collectively, because when you don't show that person kindness, that stranger kindness, what that is telling you is that you're not showing yourself that same kindness and grace. So if you're ready to point the finger at me because of this dumb argument, then you're going to be pointing the finger at yourself just as intensely. Okay. And we're going to make mistakes. We're the ones, Brian and I on this podcast are the ones who are putting ourselves out there by presenting these ideas, right? So it's just like, let's take it easy on each other. When someone makes a mistake, when Rick makes a mistake, we forgive him, right? Now, if Rick goes and cheats in the next 10 tournaments, we're probably going to have a tough time forgiving him, right? And he's going to
It's a lot
hear
of
from it.
cheating.
That is a
It's
lot of
a
cheating,
lot of
wow.
cheating, man. That's what I got to say about that, right? Because it's just crazy how quick
It's a lot
everyone
of
is to point
sticks.
the finger. Yeah, it's, and I know we harped on this like thing for a long time, but I want your quick thoughts, Holland, on the Sticky Ricky situation, just real quick, real quick.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, I watched it, and I remember my first thought was, "Oh, no, everyone's gonna be so mad at Rick," and my honestly, my first concern was for just Rick and his mental health with the backlash, because like, I know how the internet can get, but knowing Ricky, like, he gets so locked in, and, like, I doubt I don't think anyone went to the rules meeting that we had right before Supreme Flight where they went over all of the changes and asked our questions. I know because I was one of 3 people who went to the first one. Um, but I really do think he just got locked in. I mean, obviously, the camera angle I was looking at, I can't look at what he saw, but I do genuinely believe he just, like, had a brain fart and got you know, he thought, "I'll move this one stick. I can't move it till I move these others." He thought dead and unattached, which used to be what was in the rule book. So, yeah, I think he just had a brain fart. I think Ricky's a good guy. He's someone I love to root for. So, yeah.
I do wanna say, if we're here, I didn't think we'd go down this path, but I'm down to keep talking about this. I think I identified something. A lot of really angry people who thought this was the most cut and dry thing in the world, because I got a bunch of messages too, people saying I was too diplomatic in the situation, but I don't think people realize that the sticks obstacles don't need to cross into the 8 by 11 sheet of paper for you to be able to pick them up. It is an infinite line from the front edge of your lie infinitely outwards. if Holyn wants to go mark her lie, which starts her clock, that's the other thing we have to remember. Moving debris, marking your lie, that all starts the clock. You mark your lie. If Holyn wants to walk 50 feet to the right and move a stick just because she doesn't like the way it looks, she can do that. That's totally fine. It doesn't have to be in your lie to be able to move it. So for me, looking at that off foot that he was straddling out to, the basket was not straight ahead where the camera was pointing. The basket was out 11, 10 o'clock from where the camera was pointing. So his straddle, first off, if we give him the benefit of the doubt that the straddle was legal, I couldn't quite see where he was planted, and therefore I couldn't see where the sticks were. So, yes, on camera it looks ridiculous if you don't know the rule because you're looking at his frisbee and you're like, there's nothing in that lie. Of course, it's ridiculous. And through reading all the comments, I realized there's a lot of people that didn't really understand the rule and how it changed. And it's changed multiple times over the years. I know at one point they were just trying to define the stance. I think like you could only move stuff that was in your stance. And then Casey White did that snow angel, that like infamous snow angel to try to like clear everything out of his lie. And they changed it. So now you have all this room to move whatever you want as long as no further from the basket than your lie. Or no closer to the basket than your lie. Other thing is, I discovered something because I dove right into the rules after this. I spoke to Andy Rothschild, the PDGA, for a little while too. I might have a video on my Instagram go up tomorrow. There is a scenario where you can take all the allotted time that you are given, the 45 seconds from the fairway, 30 from the tee in circle one. You can be all within that window and still be assessed a time violation. And it's due to undue delay. And I think it's 3.03 in the competition manual. And it was kind of vague. So it sounded like maybe a marshal can only do it, but it also said the card could do it. If Holyn has this weird thing, so we're playing on a card together, and Holyn, before every single lie, marks her lie, sits down, takes 3 slices of beef jerky and eats them, and then, like, calls her friend and says, "You're so cool," and then hangs up the phone, throws her shot at 44.9 seconds, and does that over and over and over again, and the card starts to believe that she's delaying for no reason, they can stroke her. She gets a warning, and then everything after that is a stroke. Undue delay. So it's something to look up. And I'd love to hear someone else's thought. Please go look it up and give me your interpretation, abnbpod@gmail.com. That's what I picked up. Very interesting scenario, but that was just a fun nugget. But yeah, we're here in Charlotte. Again, me and Nate have one more show. We're doing a preview show that's going to air right before the broadcast starts this weekend. Nate, any final words?
You know, Hall, in the interview, I got to interview you when when your first pro tour at Beaver State, and after that putt on 18, one of the most electric moments I feel probably of your career still, that putt on 18, just the roar. I remember Missy kind of backing up like, "Whoa." You kinda scared
Yes.
Missy on that
It
one.
scared the heck out of me.
Ryan and I were right next to each other, actually, now that I think about it. We were right next to each other, and yeah, that putt was electric, but yeah, it's just been so great to witness firsthand, and I consider you a friend. I got to chat with you in New Orleans before we were at the Swig and Swap together, and to getting to interview you after the band marched over, and we're just chilling up on the VIP tent, and we had all the fans, and they were just like listening to your every word, and listening to your thoughts about the course, and the band was behind us, and I just feel like those moments, and especially like the champion you are and everything, those moments that we're like kind of creating together, it's like I feel like it's pushing disc golf in a great direction. I feel like it's all pushing disc golf in a great direction. And I think that when you come on here and you give us your thoughts about what you said about challenging the FPO field, you know, asking the players to get better at certain lines and throw it further, and you give us your insight about where the tour has been headed. I think that collectively it's just pushing everything forward. So that's what I'll close with. Thanks for being the champion that you are, and I'm look forward to more interviews like that. And it's going to be hard for I guess it's gonna be hard for other tournaments to give us the same exact vibe with the marching band, but whatever it is down the future, I look forward to it, and thanks so much for joining us on the podcast today. It was a real treat.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me over to play board games and to hop on the podcast. This was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun.
Got a lot of work to do. We have a lot of gaming to do. Holyn is far better than me at the games we've played so far. It's going to be a great night. But for all of you listening, thank you so much. My home course is going to be on the Disc Golf Pro Tour. I get to walk there. So I'm in heaven. Good night, everybody, or good morning, or even good afternoon. Bye.